Hey there, Kenneth French of Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. We're very, very happy you stopped by. Either you're going to watch this or listen to this because you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably an entrepreneur who's either just starting out or you've been around for quite a while and you want to take your business to the next level. You're probably a real estate investor, maybe even a real estate agent, maybe a professional or of some sort, professional advisor of some sort. And well, you are stopping by because you need some valuable advice from one of the top industry leaders there is. Anyway, thank you very much. Once again, Kenneth French, Vast Voice, telling business secrets to entrepreneurs. Really glad you stopped by.
Virtual guru. I like that, huh?
There you go. Sounds great.
I like how we do it on the fly, right? Jody, you're quite a stud, man. You and I are kind of in the same space to a certain extent. You and I we have employees in this, basically doing the same thing. This is going to be a good representation for our people, the listeners, to kind of learn about, doing the transition from brick and mortar, old school type of business to virtual, meaning online, and then also using virtual assistants. You and I both do that. So, why are you here? Why are you considered a stud or legend in your own mind, first of all?
That's a great question. Done a lot of different things, taken a lot of risks, a lot of unique opportunities. We basically transformed the accounting industry in regard to creating a virtual CFO service, something that wasn't around 20 years ago. And, more of a strategy type service where you can sit alongside the owner and really kind of help them be their financial guide or guru, as you had mentioned. The other thing is just changing the billing models. We went from hourly bill 20 years ago, and that was, everybody did it. And we thought, hey, we want to do things a little differently. Hate doing the hourly bill thing. And so we created a flat fee value-based bill and then called it subscription-based billing and zapping everybody's business or bank accounts every Monday. So it was like a Monday zap. Instead of sending invoices out. Clients loved it. Netflix loves it. It's basically a similar type of a model. And then I would say the most recent was when we went virtual a little over 10 years ago, way before COVID. And that was that was one of those deals where, I attended I've got a client that was completely virtual, one of the first virtual companies in the world. And that was one of my first CFO clients, my true CFO client, where I couldn't actually visit them. I had to actually figure out how to do things remote and all that kind of stuff. And we thought, hey, this is a great model. Why can't we do this ourselves? And so we did that jump, and that was a big risk taking. That was when we had 18 folks on the team. And now, we thought, oh, heck, if we go virtual, this will be great. Now we can hire anywhere in the world. And, we were held hostage by our building. All of our decisions were made on, hey, I've got a room for 7 more people. So how can I do this? And instead of, I got room for hundreds of people. I got room for infinite amount of people. How can we do this? And so it was a unique jump and one that was super successful. And we've now grown to, I think we've got, I'm just guessing off the top of my head, I think we've got about 75-ish people here in the United States, and we got about another 15 abroad, Canada, Mexico, India, so it's folks in the Philippines actually too. So you got some folks in other countries. And so the virtual things really kind of opened it up. And with that, I've spoke, a lot of different places, a lot of, mostly to accounting firms really, to kind of teach them how to do what we've done and replicate this type of thing. So hopefully they don't have to go through the same issues that we've gone. And I've also spoken a lot of different industry events, teaching entrepreneurs how to be profitable. What are the keys to being profitable, and in today's world, what they should look at and that sort of thing. So that's kind of the nutshell. A lot of speaking lately. Wrote a few books. That's kind of always cool, and tons of articles, which are fun too.
No, I hear it. Yeah, like I said, you and I, because we became virtual in 2006 when I joined vastsolutionsgroup.com. And, let's talk about some of the downsides before getting into all the good stuff, right? The big print giveth, the fine print taketh away, right? So let's go to the bat. So and we've experienced this. It's hard. We have, no one is in the same office. Everyone's virtual in our company, right?
Yep.
And it's hard. I think it's hard to manage people. We need them, the people out there, our affiliates, our employees, our contractors, to manage themselves. I think that's hard. Don't you find that a bit of a challenge?
Yeah, for sure. Because, before you could actually go and see how someone's doing. You can kind of get the expression on their face. You're walking by their cubicle or office, and it's like, and then you can sit down and chat with them. In a virtual, you don't have that opportunity. So you have to be super deliberate. And so that's where, small huddles work, great. Just simply just touch base every morning, for 5 minutes. Hey, what's going on? That type of thing as a manager with your team, that super important. And, not as important in a brick and mortar because you're actually seeing them, but very important when you're virtual, and the culture, there's a lot of culture things too. Managing culture is just as tough, so you've got to have, meetings, that are just simply culture meetings, which is kind of a weird concept, especially in an accounting firm where everybody's so worried about this billable hour thing and chargeable hours and stuff, where we have a full half an hour with the entire team. And we're just talking about different stuff like, hey, what's the best movie out there right now? Or, what's, let's hear some dad jokes, some stupid stuff like that, just so you can get people, gelling together and strong. Cause, when you're leading people like that, you're not only leading them, but you're trying to retain them. And that's the big part, because, they got to have a friend at work in order to, want to be there. And that's where you're kind of developing people and really, really making sure that you're super, super deliberate with everything you do. It's very important. Can't stress it more. And really, that's why our retention rates are so high, because we are. And a lot of these firms that are trying to do it that aren't being so deliberate, they're failing miserably. It's a toxic culture, and you don't want that, obviously. So being deliberate, I'd say is the key.
Yeah, it's easy to fail. There's more margin for error. I think it gets a little scary because if you're not communicating with those contractors, and for us, even our employees, or really even more so the clients, more so as a result, it makes it tough, man. It takes, it's funny, but it saves so much money for not only the company, but also the employees. They don't have to drive that 1 hour commute if they're in whatever, California or whatever. And who likes a commute, right? So I think there's a lot of benefits in that regard. You know what I mean? As a result,
it's commuting, clothes, that was that was one of the first things my director of IT was like. She was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I don't have to have a suit every time I come in, dressed up all the time." Like, yeah, this is cool.
You don't have to worry about pants. You know what I mean? You can wear your underwear, your PJs, right? Just to top up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, funny story about that. We had one of our CFOs on a call at a resort. It was during one of our team retreats. We have 2 team retreats every year. The entire team comes together, and she was taking a call in the morning. We always leave the early morning time available for the team, so if they need to actually do some work, they can do it. But when they're actually in the retreat, they've got to be in the retreat. And this was early morning, and she got dressed from the top up, and a mouse ran across her desk.
No way! I would freak out.
Oh yeah, she freaked out. She jumped up, and of course, it was like it wasn't a good.
She wasn't. I hear you. That's really funny, right?
Yeah, I was like,
wow. Yeah. And the real estate costs, you save real estate costs. But again, if you're intentional, it could get over the issue of, lack of communication, lack of face-to-face communication, bonding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Communication is the key, right? I mean, because if you're not communicating with clients, not communicating with your team, you're going to lose, one or both. And happy clients or happy team means happy clients. So it's really important to have that solid communication system in place. Whether it's touching base on a regular basis, having set meetings so that people are, understand what the agenda is for those meetings, very important. And with clients, it's the same way. It's like we meet with clients, 4 to 6 times a month, and each of those meetings has a set agenda. Hey, I want the marketing person there. I want the COO there. I want the CEO there. Oh, the CEO doesn't need to be at this one because this is a rev rec meeting or whatever. And so people know exactly what to expect. They come in the meeting and then they can be deliberate with all their questions. And a lot of times if you're meeting so frequently like that, they'll keep their questions until the actual meeting versus bothering you 20 times during the week.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, so batching is really important.
Batching, that's exactly right. Because otherwise you get an email here, you have to stop what you're doing and then answer their email. But if you have a meeting set, you know exactly what you're going to go over. It makes it a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And those are lessons learned, right? Initially we didn't have those meetings. And then it was like, well, then once we actually, and we had meetings that, hey, let's have a meeting. And then you look at the calendar, hey, when's our next meeting going to be? And that was a freaking pain in the butt. And so it's just simply, hey, every Monday at whatever time, this is the set meeting. If you can't make it, let me know, we'll reschedule. That's the types of things that you have to do that really keep that consistency, especially in a virtual world, because they don't see you. They can't bump into you accidentally.
Right.
That's the important thing.
You know, I thought because of COVID, everyone was going to make everything virtual, but it seems like it's going back to face. But and I don't think that's smart because all the things we've mentioned, and I think that it's a cultural change being able to make that switch from brick and mortar, if you will, or old school to how you and I are doing it virtually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's because they got thrown into it and they didn't really plan for it. They had no idea how to handle it,
Yeah.
and they failed. And certain people, their managerial structures has got to change. Like if you're hey, I'm watching the clock and you're here till 5 o'clock, and I need to make sure that you're doing X, Y, Z. That's probably doesn't work real well in the virtual world, right?
Yeah.
But when you're when you're focused more on job, when this job is completed, that's the idea. Hey, because our CFOs don't care if you work from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or 8, 10 to 7 or whatever that is. They just want to make sure they've got the thing that they need to deliver to the client, a day before, so they can review it, make sure it's accurate, and give feedback. And if that's not done, that's where we start, talking about, hey, issues with the client or issues with an employee, not time. And so that's a big mind shift for a lot of folks.
Mhm.
We'll get people, they're all different time zones, first of all. And we'll get people that come in early and they'll leave at 3, just as long as I don't really care when they leave, as long as they
That's
get the
smart.
client done, right? If I could have all my CFOs work a 35-hour week and have 100% happy clients, and we're profitable, the profit margins we need to be, I don't care.
Who cares? That's exactly how it should be. That's smart, by the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why would I care? Why would I even have to know that?
Yeah.
I don't want to know that.
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean. As long as clients are happy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as the work's getting done, the client's happy, it's profitable. That's really all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and we realize that difference, because when we merged with a larger accounting firm 2 years ago, and so now we are their virtual CFO arm. So basically our entire company stayed intact, and now we are the arm for the larger accounting firm, Anders, out of St. Louis, and their brick and mortar that went through COVID, they went hybrid, and you can really tell the difference from our team compared to their hybrid team. And I say their, meaning the pre-hybrid team, because the stickiness isn't there, and they're having difficulty really keeping that stickiness with those hybrid folks. And it's just because they're not deliberate. They're not used to it. They kind of expect you to be there and expect you to do this. Oh, by the way, if you're on an island out there, that's great. You chose that. That's kind of the the mentality shift that it needs to go from, no, hey, we're all on a team. Let's figure out how to get the hybrid folks, to where they're actually meeting with people, interacting with the team, so they can develop that bonding and friendship. And that's the tough part about it. Fully remote, I think, is probably the easiest way. Brick and mortar, easy. Hybrid, super tough. And so there's a lot of issues there that we've learned, we've had to take head on since we've merged. And thankfully, I can say we probably have only lost 1 or 2 people, through the merger. And you would think mergers, you lose a significant amount of team members, and we haven't, because of that intentionality that we've created, with our team, to make sure that stickiness happens.
Yeah. Well, speaking of merger, we're kind of going through a merger to a certain extent. We have in our database 12,000 people, usually entrepreneurs, real estate investors, some real estate agents, and then the law firm 4,000, and they're virtual as well. So it's going to be kind of an easy merger. But by the way, I should even ask this: why aren't you? And maybe you don't want to answer this. Why don't you get moved up to running that firm? Because you're, the virtual deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Off topic, but
I absolutely do not want to run that firm.
Okay, yeah, I understand.
Great firm. They got a great leader, and it was kind of funny because, he's an awesome dude. He's doing a great job, and I actually put it in our contract that if he in the buyout, if he leaves, I've got an opt-out clause. And
Are you serious?
I am dead serious, yeah, because I liked him so well. Robert Minkler's such a great leader that's like, I don't want him leaving and somebody else coming in and being, complete, the opposite. Oh. And so it's kind of funny you mentioned that, but yeah, I actually put that right in my clause. He leaves, I've got an opt out right away.
Wow, that's pretty smart. Wow, nice work. All right, so I digress, but now going back to our database. So most of the people are brick and mortar, frankly. Even though I'm trying to get them to do virtual, et cetera. So what else would you say that we've talked about? What else should people think about, in your opinion, as far as making that transition from old school? Like, let's say a real estate agent who
Mhm.
is brick and mortar. Now they probably are thinking about or want to go virtual. What are some other things that they should think about in that regard, specifically talking to that market?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question because when you think about it, everything that you rely upon in a brick and mortar, you've got to somehow figure out how to accomplish the same thing
Um,
in the virtual world, and that means all the way from the software that you're using to the assistant that you have. In a brick and mortar, you might have a assistant person, and you really don't need that in a virtual environment. You can use a virtual assistant.
mhm.
Same type of thing, different person, different pros and cons to it. And so you've got to look, when you're making that move, you just don't want to make the move on a knee jerk reaction. Say, hey, I'm just going to take the risk of my life and just jump, and now I'm virtual. You want to plan it out a little bit, but you want to plan it. You don't want to plan too much to where you're paralyzed by an action. And so get to the point where you've got your software covered, you've got your home office space is figured out, meaning that you actually truly have a door that you can close so that you're not working 24 hours a day. Really
Mhm.
important,
Very
and that's,
important.
yeah, because you'll get burned out quickly because you always have the option of going back and
Exactly.
hopping on the computer while you're watching TV or whatever
Mhm.
that might be. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, you can't do that. You got to have time to push away. And so those are the important things. If I remember way back when this was way back there, probably early 2000s, that Apple had a basically a rule that unless you couldn't actually work remote unless you did have a door. That was
Mhm.
the thing, and I
Mhm.
love that idea so much that we put that in place.
Mm.
From the very beginning. Also, make sure your internet. I mean, everybody thinks their internet's great. Do some internet checking. Make sure you've got high speed internet and that's not dropping all the time. You may have to upgrade that. Make sure that the background looks great. There's a lot of things. If you're at a table and it looks like a messy yuck in the background, that's a definite negative,
Mhm.
especially if you're going to have clients on video conferencing.
Mhm.
And I'd say just making sure everything is super preventable, super professional, so that when you're on a call like you and I are, that they can tell, hey, you're here to work. My bed's not in the background. you know,
Yeah, that's a problem. After this
yeah,
call, I'm going to go to sleep. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
What other what about tools? Because you mentioned a few so far. So like for our tools, we use.
Hmm.
By the way, it's funny you're commenting on like your background, because right now we have construction going on right outside my door or my
Yep.
window. Boy, is it a hassle! But anyway, that's another
Hmm.
issue. But what I would say is, like, what tools do you use? Like, here, I'll give an example of some of our
Hmm.
tools.
Yeah, yeah,
We are really into Loom. We're really into kind of being able
yeah.
to teach someone with systems, and we
Hmm.
systematize the teaching process because we can't be there like a brick and mortar person would be able to be. So,
Hmm. Yep.
so that's a big thing for us, in the
Hmm.
training and systematizing the training. A lot
Yep.
of it's based on Strategic Coach and also eMyth with Michael Gerber down in LA. But
Yeah. Hmm.
what I would also say, what other, and everything's on the network. Everything a client can give us must be on a
Hmm.
network or must be able to be brought into the cloud.
Yep.
No physical. We don't accept any physical paperwork.
Yep.
We do webinars versus, for the most part, or we have a software called Vastcast. It's a webinar
Okay.
software, proprietary webinar software that brings kind of people into our funnel, and then it's automated when the people are within our funnel. So I guess I'm asking, what specific type of tools do you use that you might not use if you were brick and mortar?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the tools that we started off with, and I was being interviewed by Forbes magazine at the time, and that question came up. They were listing one of the top 120 some client or companies that ever went virtual, and it was like IBM, Dell, some CPA Group, Apple. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we should have been on the list. It was like we had 18 people at the time, or compared to ginormous. But they asked me, hey, what virtual office do you guys use? And I was like, I had no clue what they were talking about. Virtual office, what is that? So I'm Googling it. And, a couple of them popped up. And I go, which one do you guys use? And they're like, well, we use Sococo. I'm like, I looked at it real quick. I go, well, that's the one we're using tomorrow. And it was kind of interesting because when we went virtual, all we had was, I think at that time it was like WebEx or something like that we're
Yeah.
using as our platform. And people were starting to feel a little disconnected. Hey, I couldn't see anymore. I couldn't do it. When we brought in a virtual virtual program like Sococo, it really worked out. It kind of brought everybody in. Okay, here's our office now. I got 18 little emojis on there. I can visually see. I can knock on people's doors. I can pop in. Video comes right on right away, and it made it more like an office type of relationship.
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean. Yeah.
highly recommend it. Highly recommend either that or something similar to that, where you can keep your office together on a visual thing. Because people, again, some people are really super visual, some people aren't. I am a visual person, and that was really important for me to see. Hey, not as a big brother or whatever, looking to make sure everything's working. No, it's more like, hey, I got a question. Oh, I can see, Kenner's on this call, Bob's on this call. Oh, Joan over here is available. Let me knock on Joan's door, and then boom. Versus trying to call you, no one's answering. Then I'm getting paranoid. Is anybody actually working with them?
Yeah.
Calls, that type of thing. And so that was a big one. I would say, just kind of like what you said, no software can be put on your computer. So if you've got a software that is super important to be on your computer, desk-driven software, you got to figure out another solution.
Yeah.
And we had to do that with like our tax software. We had to figure out, hey, which, back then there was really no tax softwares that were in the cloud outside of maybe a VPN structure. And we had to figure out, hey, how can we get this tax software? And we were looking at all the different ones, and we found one that worked out perfect. We tested it out. It was great. Mail, we don't have any mail either. And so we use, different mail solutions out there. Earth, I'm not sure I think what it's called now, but we have a mail system where it's delivered to a PO box and then scanned and then sent to us, and so it, those are the types of things you got to really think through and think about. With the process, we are a huge eMyth fan as well. Strategic Coach, eMyth, love it. Yeah. That's what I founded our company on, the idea that, hey, I was going to create processes so I could be irrelevant pretty much. And
totally. Yeah.
And I did that from day one. And so we set processes up all the way through. We use ClickUp to manage that right now. So that ClickUp's our management. Loom is obviously integral part to that, just taking videos, snapshots. The AI of Voma is something that we really, really like on an AI tool that's great with note taking, connects with Teams. Teams is a big thing that Anders is using, and we use, of course, Excel and Word and all that kind of stuff. But it integrates really well, and so our note taking solid there. And we can take clips off of that, slide it into ClickUp as examples for different things that we're trying to accomplish. So yeah, there's a lot of great tools out there to use. ClickUp being a big one for the process right now. Obviously, Loom, there's a lot of software like that you could probably get for video. We use for internal communication, we do Teams. External, we do Zoom. We like the recording feature a little bit better in Zoom, and the fact that it's just a little easier for some clients. We try to stay away from things that clients are going to have an issue getting into, or prospects are going to have an issue getting into. We record all of our conversations, which is kind of cool. And we do that a lot of times for prospecting. We do that so we can send them a clip of our conversation, which is kind of neat, because then they can hear the prospecting call and they can share it with somebody. But more importantly, with our onboarding team, we share with our onboarding team. So like if I ever get on a prospect call, or one of our salespeople get on a prospect call, they can actually hear what was promised, and which makes it so that, again, there's no disconnect from the sale to the actual onboarding. So there's a lot of things that you really want to think through and set processes up so that you can figure out, hey, how, if this issue is broken, how can we fix it? And it's very easy to fix it in a virtual, at least I think so, in a virtual world.
It's easier. It's like a small, jet ski versus a big, huge boat. It's just easier to be, more flexible if you're virtual. That's the way we look at it.
Yep, same here.
Yeah, there's more potential issues, negative issues, but then again, if you combat them early on, you'll be much better off, generally speaking. Wow. Okay. So let's go back to a little practice management, maybe for you and I both, and also some of the viewers and listeners. So you're eMyth guy, and it sounds like strategic coach both.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sweet. Okay. So let's talk about that. So, I don't think enough people know the combination of those two performance enhancing groups will just blow doors off anyone else as far as management. It's unbelievable, right? So let's talk about Strategic Coach. Strategic Coach by Dan Sullivan up in Canada. One of his big deals is, you have a 3-day work system, time system breakthrough, where you have a free day where you don't work. And I can tell you're in Florida, you never work.
That's right.
You have a buffer day where you push paper if you're an entrepreneur, let's just say, and then a focus day where you're really working 80% of your time or whatever is really spent on working things you like to do, and
Yep.
also that make for good profits. So
Yep.
how are you capitalizing on Strategic Coach?
Yeah, great question. So I have about 150 free days, which is kind of cool.
Good.
And so a free day is defined as a day that you're not even thinking about work.
Yeah.
And so it's not that you're not just doing work, you're not even thinking about it. So you're not reading workbooks, you're not reading, Dan Sullivan's book or Michael Gerber's book. You're not doing any of that because you're not thinking anything work. This is free the mind and go forward.
Yeah.
And I've had about 150 free days probably for the last 10 years. And so
Yeah.
it's been one of those things that as you try to get out of, when you're creating this entrepreneur business, you're creating it, the last thing you're probably getting rid of is marketing and sales or whatever that might be. I gotten rid of it a while back. And so now it's just simply, I can focus on creativity and it allows your brain to go. So that's really important. My Mondays are completely scheduled meeting days. That's really it. And then I have 2 days that I schedule for prospect calls or marketing calls or, that sort of thing. And so I utilize, it's kind of funny because when I went to my first meeting, they're going through and hey, you need to have this many free days. I'm like, I think I might have that already. I'm like going through. It's like, well, shit, I already have that, which I would say nobody else in the room had. There's like 50 people in the room. And it was like, no, we have 20 free days or no free days in some cases. It's that's, as an entrepreneur, you've got to figure out how to get yourself out of the weeds. And that's the really big part about it. And, Dan talks about it. He's got a lot of great articles, great books on that, but free days are important. And the other ones are just really just kind of delegating certain days to do certain things, whether it's client facing days or internal work days or reviewing for, preparing for those days.
Yep. And I think if you combine E-Myth, which E-Myth, Michael Gerber's E-Myth is basically where you systematize everything. So if you can have a bunch of free days and systematize everything, one, you're fresh, you're not working as much, and you're more creative as an entrepreneur. But at the same time, you could sell it on enterprise value. It's so much more because you have a system you could sell and you're not involved. It's been delegated so other people can run it. It'll be worth a heck of a lot more. Plus, you're not in the weeds, as you say. It's a huge benefit combining the two,
Yeah, if everything's snowflakey, good luck on selling it for a premium.
Right, totally. That's exactly right.
That's how it's going to be, yeah. And so that was one of the big things that we had to have in place when we sold it. I wanted everything documented. I wanted everything in processes. I wanted to be able to step out of my job completely and the business not missing a step. We as owners, we think, oh, the business would fail if I stepped out of it. It's like, not really. If you set your processes, people, and everything in place, and you delegate and not abdicate that responsibility, you should be fine. If you've done everything right. And Michael Gerber's what E-Myth Revisited. That was the book I gave my business partner and said, hey, Adam. When he first started, he was right out of college. I go, read this book because this is going to be us. And so he read it and he goes, I don't want that. He goes, that means I'm going to be doing all the work. And I go,
well, yeah.
I'm like,
but he's a partner, but yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Like,
he's no stupid.
Yeah. It's like, no. We're developing this company that's going to be set up on processes so that eventually you also would, as an owner, an eventual owner, would be able to step aside and delegate your responsibilities because we didn't want it leaning on one person. And unfortunately, most businesses are that way where if something's leaning on them, whether it's production side because they're really a good producer or whether it's, just simply the sales side because they're the only person that can sell. You've got to be able to systemize everything, every single thing so that if you won the lottery tomorrow, got sick, whatever that might be, somebody could step in your shoes and they wouldn't miss a beat. And that's really the key to it.
Yeah, we have 2,000 people in our database who will be watching or listening to this, hopefully at least, and they are real estate agents. And I think a lot of them they think they have to be the face out there. Maybe they do have to be the face, but if they systematize it afterwards, then they're good to go. And E-Myths, I would say, perfect example is McDonald's. Can you imagine going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac and them let me look up the recipe, let me do this, versus here, exactly what you're getting every single time. It's automated, it's more profitable as a result. And people don't go to McDonald's generally because it tastes good. It's because there's a study done years ago. It's because they know what they're going to get.
Yep.
Right. So,
100%.
There's value from let's say you buy Big Mac in India versus in Kentucky as an example. You know what you're going to get, and it's automated, and it makes more money for McDonald's as a result.
Yeah, and that goes from every service space, right? Because that was a hard thing with us because we created the virtual CFO concept. So hey, and I was super great. I could easily talk to people. It wasn't a big deal. I could bring questions out. So I was really good at it naturally. Just the consulting side. Adam, my partner, really good at it naturally. We brought in Jake, the first CFO, not good at it naturally. We're like, oh, is this a Jake problem, or is this and it's like, no, that was a Jody and Adam problem because we didn't actually set processes and systems to make him successful. And then once we did, boom, super successful. And the nice thing about that is that I feel super confident that him being our first one, they were getting the same look, feel, vibe, advice type of thing than they would with Adam or I, just because the systems and processes we eventually then put in place. So now we fast forward till we've got, I don't know, 15 CFOs, and the new CFO, here's the systems and process, here's how we do it. And so I'm hoping that they're delivering a summit virtual CFO, basically concept, a summit virtual CFO feeling, so that there's no difference between one versus the other. Now, there's always going to be difference in consultant, real estate agents, whatever that might be, but 80% of it should be pretty consistent. From the welcoming letter going out to the meeting concepts to hey, here's how we deliver it, here's the software we're using, the exact same software, so that again, we can plug and chug. So again, something happens to Kenner, boom, I can slide in there, help him out while he's gone, and then when he gets back in, everything is going well. And so those processes are super important. I can't, and that goes from administration all the way to the sales side. You have to have processes in place because again, that's what people buy when they buy a business. That's what people succeed in. That's how you scale. You can't scale if you don't have processes. If you're the lone person doing everything and not setting up processes to be your place, you always be the lone person. So you might as well have a job or be a gig economy. Being in the gig economy, you could be that person, but you're not gonna be able to sell it. When you get to the end. And I don't know, any entrepreneur, I think, should have a goal that eventually selling it and how they're going to sell it. That's really the key for that. Think about all the real estate agents out there that you're seeing the face of that person, but that person doesn't even do anything anymore. They've got people underneath them, and you're meeting, instead of Bob, who's on all the billboards, you're meeting Joan, or you're meeting Marge, or whoever those people might be, because they set those processes and systems in place, and that's what makes them be able to scale and be even more successful.
So looking back, what's the one thing you would do differently as far as making the brick and mortar to virtual, and we haven't even talked about virtual assistants, but what's the one thing you would change now that you've been doing this since for 11 years, basically?
Yeah, so we kind of molded over the 11 years. So there, someone asked me the question the other day, what kind of mistakes or what do you wish you wouldn't have happened or whatever, and it's like, gosh, I don't believe in that. I think issues are what really form you today. Mistakes, which makes you better today, just as long as you learn from them all the time and don't look at it as an end result all the time. So as we're going through the journey there, it was the meeting cadence. We didn't have them, so we had to figure out how can we solve for that. We put meeting cadences in there. It was the meetings. They were too long. They were, some of the meetings lasted forever. We included everybody in the meetings. We're talking about client specific stuff. It was boring people out. We went to an EOS type process and system, and man, we nailed that down. So everything that we learned, we learn from our mistakes. We learn from our inefficiencies. We learn, that, hey, not everybody does everything identical to it. Somebody might be great in Excel doesn't mean everybody's great in Excel. Somebody might be, everybody learns a little differently. Some people are visual, some people are written. And so providing different concepts there. So it's just one of those things that, we're always looking to better ourselves, knowing that we're not even close to being perfect today. If you looked under our hood, you'd be like, oh, geez, look at all these mice running around, that type of thing. Yeah. And boy, believe me, there's not as many mice there, but there were, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, look under the hood of anybody you think successful, and there's still issues there, and I'm no different than that. So we can always improve on stuff, and we're always looking to improve on stuff. The time that we become complacent, man, we might as well just turn it in right there, because people just go flying by. And with technology, it's going to be super. The speed that they're going to be flying by will be jet speed compared to snail speed it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, especially with AI. I mean, AI is blowing people. I mean, people aren't using AI; they're getting blown. blown away. So let's talk about virtual assistants, because you've talked about it a little bit. You and I, we don't even call our people virtual assistants. People probably would, because we have some people in the Philippines. We have some now a guy in Germany. What I would say is that's the best way to do it, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Cheap. I know it sounds sometimes bad that you're paying someone whatever, $15 or whatever. I don't know what we pay. Let's say it's $15 an hour, $10 an hour. Some people think, oh, you're taking advantage of those people, but it's making a marked difference to those people. And usually they're very, very happy. Let's say you have someone in Brazil or whatever, in Egypt or the Philippines. They're very happy. They're making a lot of money, maybe as much as a doctor, and you're paying them as an administrative assistant. I think it's huge. I feel so good that we can help someone when I used to feel guilty because we were paying them so little, but it really is a big amount, and they're happy they have the job,
Yeah. We use people overseas. We use people near shore, offshore, whatever you want to call but you just refer to them as the team members. There's team members, right? There's team members that live in a different country as opposed to a different state.
Exactly.
So instead of New Mexico, they live in Mexico. Take the new off.
Yeah, take out the new. Good point.
Yeah, and you're there, right? There's no such thing as an invisible line at the border going straight up, changing people, right? And so we kind of use everything as, hey, of course you want to have the safety measures in place, all that kind of stuff, without a doubt. But we don't care really where you live, just as long as you can perform at the level that you perform at. And that goes from a virtual assistant to a virtual accountant, a virtual CFO. It could be really any concept or anything can be completely now that you're fully remote. It's really not any different than whether they're across the street or in a different country. Just as long as you're on the same time zones, that's really the only thing you have to worry about, how to work around time zones. And if you can work around that, then you can have a team. You can have a team everywhere, which is pretty cool.
And we sometimes, and I'll admit, we sometimes have an issue with accents or language barrier. Because I have one lady who I need her to usually say, another sentence kind of as an overview every probably third or fourth sentence. So that's an issue for us sometimes. But otherwise, I don't think there's a downside. Some people say, well, you're taking money out of a U.S. person or out of American citizens' mouth because you're using someone international. But the way I look at it is, at least I'm lowering fees as a result because we're using someone who's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I'm keeping people's jobs, really doing it, because otherwise we would be with as much as the salaries have increased over the last 3 years. Our price hasn't increased equivalent, and so we've got to figure something out in order to retain clients, in order to make the world go around. That's just one of the things that we had to really kind of more focus on is those contractors, which is great. But kind of getting back to one of your points there, we actually have them. We want to make sure that as one of the requirements of bringing on, they've got to have solid English skills. And the choppiness, we don't want folks that have choppy English, because again, it's really difficult, really on anybody trying to understand, that they're trying to understand us and us trying to understand them. And so that's one of the requirements. They've got to be able to speak very fluent English. And that's not that difficult in any country they go to, because English is a main main language in a lot of countries, or one of the primary languages. And so even for Mexico or Canada, obviously, Philippines, India, you name it, anywhere, even in the Caribbean, English is going to be a pretty dominant language. So we make that as a requirement when they come in.
Do you feel comfortable saying how much you spend for, let's say, a tax preparer? Or do you not want to?
Yeah, it depends on the country. Like we spend, I think, $30,000 a year on a senior level accountant for Mexico. We're going to spend close to $50,000 for one in Canada, or we'll spend $65,000 for one in the U.S. In India, we're going to spend that they're more on an hourly basis. I think they're about $15 an hour, so whatever that comes to, dollar wise, and they're going to be a solid accountant, senior accountant level. So that's probably equivalent in the United States. You're looking at probably a 3 to 5 year degree person, is what that's going to be. So it's significantly cheaper. Virtual assistant, I'm not 100% sure how much we spend on those folks. But that it's just invaluable to whether they're, again, a virtual assistant overseas or a virtual assistant, in the U.S. It's going to be a lot cheaper, a lot easier to manage, and you're a lot of times you're not paying for that downtime, whereas a person, you're going to be paying for the downtime, think time that they're not truly working, for you because they don't have enough work to do. They're not at capacity. Whereas, those folks you're paying for just the time they're working, which is nice.
What about do you guys have like your social media person overseas, or probably Anders does it, or how do you guys deal with that stuff?
Yeah, so our marketing team, we have it's kind of funny because we actually lead. That's how we drive revenue through marketing,
Mm,
and so we spend a lot of money on our marketing engine. And so our
mm,
marketing engine is throwing thought leadership pieces out left and right. Just about every day, we've got something new going out, helping with podcasts and all that kind of stuff. And so our team is made up of three full-time U.S. based people, one full-time Canadian person, and I think we've got three Philippines people, and so it's a kind of a wide, a wide range of people, and that goes from, and
mm,
then we have contractors that just rotate in and out, not really permanent employees like we've got on the other folks, contractors that may write an article for this or that type of thing,
mm,
on a regular basis. So we're constantly using the folks that I mentioned there, plus a probably handful of contractors that maybe we'll write one or two articles a year for us, rotating out pretty consistently.
What about AI? Because we've been using AI since 2018. We have a model that has even helped with our taxes and our practice management since 2018 called Einstein. Are you guys really getting into AI in any regard?
Yeah, I would say we're probably not as far along as you, 2018, but with that, everybody is using, we've been using machine learning in a lot of our softwares.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have that, and it's kind of funny because, a lot of the things that we pioneered a lot we helped pioneer a lot of the softwares that are out there in our industry, which is because we were early adopters and helping them out. AI is a big part of all of that, which is kind of
Mm-hmm.
nice. We're getting really into it now and how we can streamline everything from internal communication to our wiki to really everything that can make our CFOs a lot easier. Because I truly believe in the accounting field, within probably the next 5 to 10 years, you probably won't have a tax accountant. You'll probably
You mean
everything
tax
will be
preparer? You mean, right?
tax prepare, yeah, tax prepare.
Yeah.
That'll be done completely AI. You probably won't have an accountant necessarily. That'll be done all AI. And so, really, the biggest thing that's going to, in my opinion, will be the CFO. So the CFO, the advisory, you'll have that on a consistent basis because people still need to rely a little bit on,
Yeah.
hey, face to face, hey, let's interpret the data, that sort of thing. And so that's where I see the accounting industry going, and that's because AI is changing it considerably. Now, you can be one of those people that resist it and don't want it, or you can be one of the people that embrace it and think, how can I make this better the lives of my people and better the lives of my clients, and at the same time better mine, because the profitability margin will go up if both of those are clicked off.
Yeah, I mean, I've written a number of articles. I wrote for Forbes.com as well as a small business contributor, and one of my first articles that I wrote was the fact that AI is going to take. Well, if you don't adopt AI now, and this was written in probably 16, if you're not adopting AI now, you're either AI is going to take your job, or someone who knows AI is going to take your job or your business. And
Yep.
and maybe it's too late now. Here we are in 2024 and 25. People have got to use AI, and I make a claim that an entrepreneur, even a solopreneur, should spend an hour a day. I know this is a lot, an hour a day learning AI, because it will help them in the marketplace. They'll become a figurehead, a thought leader in AI in their specific niche. Anyway, but that's number one. But number two, what I would also say is for social media pieces, AI totally helps. I mean, unbelievable. It's incredible what can be done with AI. And I just think a lot of people don't realize it and should before it's too late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use AI daily, several times a day. I mean, it's just a constant thing. I mean, to the point where even when I write an email, I'll just run it through AI. Hey, can you make this more casual, or whatever, and have them spit it out for me. And then I don't rely on it 100%. I'll make some modifications to it. But even things like that, it's like, wow, this is great. So it's making me a much better writer than what I was prior to AI. And because you start picking things up, when if and it could be like writing from anything. It could be writing a summary. Like every month I write a partnership recap, kind of breaking out, hey, here's how we did for the month. A lot of that I put into the AI and have them spit out my language so that it comes across a lot different. And it's amazing how that works, because I've written 2 books and I think, oh, this is pretty easy, I can write really well, and then I do it, and I have AI look at it, and read it, and analyze it. It's like, well, man, I really like this style a little bit better. It's getting the message a lot clearer. It's not defensive, or the tone. It just changed the tone, and it's making me a much better writer with AI. And man, I can write a lot quicker now than what I could in the past because I was thinking through all that before. Well, now it's becoming pretty natural because I'm actually seeing what the end result should look like. And so, like I said, all my emails go through it. Any kind of article I'll write, I run it through it just to kind of get some ideas. Very, very rarely do I actually change my articles. They're written. I like it, but it may help me with grammar. It may help me with whatever. But I don't typically change those. But AI is instrumental to us, and I know our marketing team is using it a lot with what they do, and it's really been really been helpful for sure.
Yeah, I think like you're saying. I think a lot of tax preparers, a lot of people in industries are going to get replaced by it, or replaced by it because someone who's using it. So anyway, for all those people who are watching and listening to this, hurry up and get into AI.
I think they're not going to get replaced if they adapt, right? If they adapt and use it as a tool, then they're not going to get replaced. Their position might change, what they're doing might change, but they've got to use it as a tool in their toolbox.
Yeah. But I think you're right. On the CFO level, those are the people. I mean, it's going to be a little bit harder to be replaced or attacked by AI. And what I would also say as a CFO, you can use it as a management piece. I use it strategically because we put in pretty much I know it sounds crazy, all our decisions just to see how it works against our model. Is this a good decision? Should we do a podcast? Should we market the podcast this way? And it's helped. It's helped tremendously. And sometimes it'll come out with crazy things. Yep. Obviously, it is what it is. That's the reason you have a human reviewer of it, though,
Yep, that's exactly right. We do the same thing. Yeah, exactly the same thing. To the point where we've got internal where we can actually slide in some financials and kind of look at it and see, hey, comparatively, are we providing the right advice? Is there something that maybe we're missing out of this? And then it can kind of dovetail us into another area, and then we can kind of focus on that area. So eventually now we're talking about phantom stock, and and that wasn't even a thought, initially, where it became that thought. Yeah. So it's really helping our consultants out a lot, advising clients.
Yeah. You and I, there's no doubt you and I think alike as far as business goes, man. So I got to say, you're a smart dude. How's that sound?
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, there you go. So let's go ahead and land this plane. So how does someone get a hold of you if they want either, I don't know, business coaching? I don't know if you do that, or, they want to utilize your firm or Anders if they're one and the same.
Yeah.
How does someone get a hold of you?
Yeah, probably easiest way, just Googling my name, and I pop up all over the internet. So that's Jody Grunden. Or you can reach out to me through email, Jody, JODY.Grunden @summitcpa.net, SUMMIT CPA.net. Couldn't afford the .com at the time, so we stuck with .net.
Yeah.
And or you can hop on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn anywhere. Just send me a note, send me a message if you have any questions, or especially about the topics that we talked about. I'd be happy to discuss with anybody. I'll just send you a Calendly link, and we can pop on my calendar. We can chat for a little bit. But definitely open here to help anybody out that wants to help.
And how do you spell your last name, just in case?
Yeah, it's Grunden, Grunden.
All right, you guys, and he's in LinkedIn. So, wow, this has been an awesome conversation as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure those watching and listening are going to say the same thing. This is Kenner French. You have a lot of different options for everyone out there. You could be watching a cool TV show. You could be watching Netflix. You could be watching a sports game, but instead you're watching this. So we really appreciate this. And hopefully this is going to put money in the pockets of entrepreneurs, or maybe even an employee who somehow can learn from some of the things that we talked about. If you have any questions, obviously you know how to get a hold of Jody or us at vastsolutionsgroup.com. Or if you want to provide any input to make this show better, info@vastsolutionsgroup.com. Ladies and gentlemen, I totally appreciate you taking the time. Please get a hold of us if you need anything. Otherwise, have a great day.
All right.